Recognize. I mean, you really can't.
I know. It is not a huge goal. Receive these colonies.
Yeah, no worries.
What's happening?
It's getting so big.
He's in the
It is
not baby room anymore.
Not baby.
So for the daycare, he was in the baby room and now he's in the next step up.
I still can moved up now.
Yeah, he's moving up. He's kind of like,
Check 1, 2, 3. Mic check 1, 2, 3. Sibilance.
the other rooms start getting too crazy. Two babies.
Yes.
This room is like, oh, there's only like 3 or 4 of them.
Is the stuff you're putting up here going to be, are you making that available?
In Oxford.
Yes, if you need the photographs, we can send you the photographs. I can also send you the QR code and the PayPal link for the donation if you need it. Just let me know afterward. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I think that there's one on Sophia.
That would make sense. I know it's like kind of a chain of them, but yeah. There's one of them up by us, and then I think they have like, oh yeah, we have. Because when Allie got her job at 7 and I was still at Team 5, we moved there to be sort of in the middle. I know it's like kind of a chain. We just kind of stay there.
I love it.
Real by us, like to be like a town over.
It's just, it's just cool.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
really can't imagine community.
Did you grow up here?
I grew up in Troy.
Oh,
My husband grew up in Beverly Hills too.
okay. Yeah, I grew up in Commerce.
But everything's just like so,
Where it's like it's easy to get to everything.
and it's just like so quick to go to and from work is the biggest thing. And like I'm going to and from a lot.
When I was a reporter in Saginaw, we lived like right across the street from the station for a period. Bad idea.
We're all too close.
Too close. Close enough where like if you called in, you'd be like driving down the street like.
Yeah, especially if it's not as big of a station.
And downtown Saginaw is a little bit of a ghost town. There's not a lot of people here, so it'd be like you'd see me walking around.
Oh my gosh, I remember my first market. It's so small, when people would oversleep for the morning shift,
Where was it?
they would send Cadillac machines, like knock on the door.
Jeez. Was that 9 and 10?
Yeah.
Or was it the other one?
Mhm. It's a good station, but small.
Yes.
Just because my first one was
Leave me
Lane's.
an email address.
And
before
that
you leave, and I can
was
send
like
everything to you.
What's a nice version of Cadillac? I was on ILX and it was not.
Okay, I'll just make sure, as long as Steve Huber has your email address.
For another
He'll be the
time.
person that sends you the
It was,
If you're on
it was
the thread,
interesting
okay.
for sure.
Yeah,
So then you went 9 and 10. Can't write. Yeah, and then you started at 5:47.
Little ass thing screws me up.
so.
Allie's brother's there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Allie's brother's at that station. Two of them.
Oh,
Good, I guess. I don't know. He makes decent pay. I was like,
it's interesting. So Fox 47.
Not a ton, but
Yeah.
you also give her bath. She's shedding.
yeah.
So she sheds once or twice a year,
It's their
which is
way
funny
to
too, because it's usually by
test
spring. Go ahead.
what they're going to
It's usually
do.
by spring. It's not usually like in the fall.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting
Yeah,
place
she's
to be.
treated like once a month.
Yeah. Because I think the first time that I saw you
Because she
was
gets.
at the Emmys because you beat one of my United stuff.
I MMJ'd that.
Nice.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's when I knew you were the
Oh, I'm over there.
Okay. I'll let her go.
Sorry, we're.
You guys already white balanced?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody set?
I might actually go for it this year.
Okay, obviously, we're here to update you on the very horrific case of the 3 children in Pontiac who had been give you a little bit of a, and more specifically where the kids are asking for on behalf of the kids. So from a lot of people is, where was the dad during this? So to back up a little bit, the father had been incarcerated for a period of time and had no contact with the kids. When he came out, he sought and actually filed some legal papers in court to try to get visitation and those kinds of things. A consent agreement arrived at in 2022, but the mother still would not allow him to see the kids. So preliminarily, we're going to go back and double check all these timelines and that kind of information. Potentially dropping food at the house other than the mother. It's pretty layered and complex given that it's going over years. The cart or DoorDash, things like that. So, so far, none of the people that were coming to that to they dropping food off, knowing there's the kids were forensically interviewed, with our partners at Care House. They've already been seen once at McLaren. We health kind of checkup, if you will, that will happen hopefully this week. When our detectives saw them at their interview at Care House, they were already making amazing progress, having had some tender love, having had some supportive care, having been put in new clothing and some basic hygiene. The one detective said that the little girl was talking quite a bit. So that's super exciting to see that happening. And as it relates to being in the house, the only one of the three that ever came out was the young boy, and he came out twice. Once because he wanted to feel the grass, which by itself is heartbreaking, and a second time to check the mail. So you wouldn't do this to an animal, let alone your child. So, just to hear that he came out to touch the grass is just crushing, soul crushing on so many levels. As it relates to the house, we have obviously released pictures. I'll get my technical expert up. You've already seen some of these pictures. I rolled that little mouse, but it didn't want to cooperate. So inside of the home, as I had mentioned with these pictures, trash was piled, in some places 3 and 4 foot high. Everything was covered with feces and trash. The toilet had become non-functional, and the bathtub was filled with feces. That's the kind of situation these poor kids had been living in for years, not just hours or days, for years. And so when you have the complete lack of hygiene, a complete breakdown of basic living conditions that they were subjected to. And to get a little deeper into that, detectives have narrowed down the initial abandonment they believe to be somewhere in the spring to summer of 2020. Obviously, COVID played a little part in the disconnect potentially with schools and school communications. In 2020, the mother dropped off some trash bags, gloves, and Febreze, and that was about the last thing related to hygiene. 2020, in the height of COVID, okay? Towards the end, the children apparently were getting a loaf of bread dropped off that was intended to last 3 to 4 days. So, I mean, obviously on so many levels, the conditions are horrendous and the situation terrible. And as it relates, the preliminary report has been some more stuff for them. They're in when I heard about this, I couldn't know it was coming, and she is. As it relates to the kids, the first thing we wanted to do is obviously get them safe and to get them generous communities, I think, in the world. We put on there. This is just a tiny sample of what we've at the office of ours. We have bags and bags. So we don't need any more clothing. We greatly appreciate it. The family and the kids greatly appreciate it. And so we're kind of pivoting now to financial support. And we have put up a link, if you will, to the charity Mission Oakland. And 100% of it will go to the kids. Unlike some of the traditional, 100% of this will go to the kids out there and readers that would set up a trust fund so that we can take 100% of what kids can be administered that can take care of maybe their medical bills, mental health visits, and if there's any overage, maybe set some money aside for their future education situation. And so we'd like to be able to kind of hand the baton to a trust budget in a way that makes sure it's not, but we're looking for a mechanism there that would like to, and we'll deposit any receipts that we have in a very the 15 to 20,000. We're gonna, obviously have some real dollars to be able to give these kids 3-4 years that they've been subjected to these conditions. I've said this more than once, but you see those videos of animals in just terrible conditions on commercials. Imagine living in what we showed you and then play it out over years, not days or weeks. So it's hard to wrap your head around this one. So there's going to be a lot of long-term, I think, mental health things that we want to try to help with the family to get to that point. The other thing I'd like to mention, the family is asking, apparently, some of the folks that are now, they did the children or what was happening so far. So they'd like to get some privacy for their kids and the grandkids and just a little bit of a safe bubble, if you would. So they asked that all of us are asking, how the heck did this happen? How did we lose 3 kids? How'd they, the relatives, the school, at that. certain actions. So what I mean by that is a school district for records from another school in Pontiac. Verification the children ever moved to that school. And so at some point, they were a school that sent the transcripts. Knew that they were nowhere. And so what we're proposing, and we're already communicating to a potential so they have to obtain written confirmation that child's someplace else. That doesn't. It's still, again, being investigated because, but it looks like based on that request for records, the child was and had the children. So, language. Tool. A follow-up where they have to truancy officer or law enforcement to begin an exam. Are they? To think that we've got 3 kids that fell off the every years. So that goes to the second part, as I said, within 20 days, the sending school that sent those records has to notify the truancy officer that so it should be worked on, amended ability measures so we don't have kids fall through the cracks. And that is the direct to the children and their needs. So that's kind of the basics of where we are. As I said, we're going to have some follow-up investigative things we're going to be doing. Deeply, the children's physical assessment are, where they are. You know, you hear how many kids across from 1 year of COVID. Imagine where these kids are. And so, you know, we don't have a clue. Where are they educationally in terms of acuity and also mental health and all? No, we don't know. And they're going to have needs with that. So it's a big undertaking, a big process, and one of the most tragic long-term abuse situations I've ever seen. I've been in this a long time. I know where we sit.
What did mom say or do to make?
They were just scared. I don't know that admitted to us, but they were. I know that much.
I know.
Custody with us.
Is she cooperating?
To us, but we've got some follow-up secondary things that we want to ask. Original attention. Kids.
Any idea on the state of her mental health?
I have no information or background that she's got any mental health challenges, but obviously that will be.
Donations, whether that's been financed, supplies that have come in.
Felt warm thank you to everybody that has stepped up. I mean, as I said, in very short order, we got a ton of clothing, so much we had to say, okay, we got enough of that. Let's pivot to And that, I honestly think we have one of the most generous communities in the world, and I've seen it time and time again. You know, I was when many police and fire families were decimated, and at that time there was no area for the New York. We raised hundreds of thousands before they got any assistance from anyone else.
Do a maintenance check. What are they saying?
Well, the landlord's the one that actually called in the welfare. Over, so respond if there's complaints about something not working. To and that's when we
House, right?
it'd be up to the health department and other folks that will have to make a determination of how they move that for evidentiary value. Our folks were wearing hazmat level. It's a bio.
They go through any kind of debrief?
Again, the worst on the front lines is when they have an issue with kids, because most they connect, they look at their kid and they see the other kid in this situation and they just begin to. That was initiated immediately once we learned what the debrief them and make sure the opportunity. You know, after never two came right away. Callie sits in this corner.
At all.
Whether you have who was she living with?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. It's hard, again, to wrap your head around. If you don't want to be a parent, you know, in place, there's methodologies to other family members. There's never an excuse to abuse your child or abandon your kids. There just isn't. Wanting a child in their life out, they haven't been adopted, but anything's better. You know, let someone else have a chance at that role.
Thank you.
In the interactions with the children the last couple of days, does it seem like the children knew that have any idea of reality outside of the house?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was their reality. You know, they had no adult. Were not.
Years ago, I'm not looking.
This makes no sense. This makes no sense. I've never heard anything like this, not even in a movie.